I've had discussions with business owners who would be like, oh my God, that's a crazy amount, I'm not going to spend that on a domain name, when literally their employees are getting their own domain name wrong. If you have a decent sized company, you have 100, 200, 500 people working for you, you spend crazy money on coffee for a year. Imagine the alternative, like how many people at what kind of a wage per year would you need to hire to get those results, to get that recognition, to get that trust, to get that traffic, to get that effectiveness of everything you do in marketing. What would that cost you? Because it's very hard. I was giving you the example with the shoes. Like if I had not I've never tried anything better. And it's very similar with domains for people who have never run a business on the perfect domain name, because they have nothing to compare. It's like when you have that many things to do, you have to get organized.
Tatiana, hi.
Hi.
Glad to see you again.
Good to see
We're
you
in
too.
Kyiv, Ukraine, the capital of bravery.
Here we are.
Yep. And we're going to talk about stuff.
And things.
Personal, professional. We're going to talk about domain names. We're going to talk about things that entrepreneurs should consider when choosing domain names. But before that, prior to that, tell us, how did you wind up here in Kyiv?
Oh my God, that wasn't an expected question. You're like throwing things. How? Well, I was born in Crimea, Ukraine. So about 40 years ago, yeah. And it has been the plan to come back for forever, really. We've come and visited with my family as well, the last time in 2021. And we kind of back then decided we should come and spend some more time here, get the kids a bit more used to their, in a way, homeland as well, learn the language. Then the war broke out, and that was kind of delayed. But eventually, last year in 2023, so we finally made a decision and moved here, and here we are.
So how long have you been?
Since August.
Since
year.
August,
yeah,
okay.
Coming up to 1 year
Well,
soon.
we're in this beautiful area. We just were talking with Arno, who's standing right there, your husband, about that it's heart of like everything is going on here. There's a lot of cultures here. There are embassies there. There's
we probably should hurry up, like, cause with all of those things that are a target potentially, if there's an air raid, we're gonna have to move.
Okay. Anyhow, so speaking of domain names, but the great thing about what you do is that you're able to do it remotely. We know that you lived, from other videos on your YouTube channel, we know that you lived in 5 different countries.
I don't know. Well, Ukraine, if we count that, Bulgaria, Spain, England, France.
Yeah. And so what you do for a living enables you to actually do that from any place in the world, which is really cool. So what do you do, and why what you do is important?
So very shortly put, help entrepreneurs secure, acquire, invest in the best domain names for their business. That's kind of the main thing. Around that, we do at MarkUpgrade offer naming services. So that's for businesses or entrepreneurs who are just launching a business and they are in the process of selecting a name. So we can help with that. We do offer different IT services. So web design, software development, but the main focus is that. We have a small team that's really good at content creation, so on different topics, and we do have different other side projects, things that we try, some work, some don't, so that's something we constantly do, I guess, as any entrepreneur. We're always looking for ideas.
So you mentioned MarkUpgrade. You have MarkUpgrade and you have SmartBranding.
That's it. So MarkUpgrade is the main part where we focus on the domain name acquisitions and naming services. SmartBranding was launched as as I was working on MarkUpgrade, we realized very quickly that a lot of entrepreneurs don't understand much about domain names. They're making the wrong choices. And because we have just like the domain market is a very, very big, wide market, there's, you can get the classic, you can get a domain name that's available to register for $10 at, name.com or GoDaddy or whatever. Or you can get, domain for 7-8 figures, domain names that are more desirable, domain names that are, usually dictionary words, short names.com, they go for millions. So that's a huge range, and there are different players in that market. So we at MarkUpgrade have just chosen to focus on the higher end names that are more suitable for well-established brands that are either already global.
Premium domains, so to speak.
Yes, I'm not a huge fan of the word premium because it could be subjective. Who says what's premium? So I would say that at some point, any business that is there for a longer term gets to a point where they're big enough, they are getting global, they are getting more established, so they need a name that is matching that and that can help them really with their marketing, that can make the life of their clients and of their customers easier. So when they get to that stage, that's kind of the place where we've chosen to be, and that's the type of names that we work with. But again, very quickly, I realized that, from the hundreds of requests for help or interest for a particular domain that we get on daily basis, a lot of those, 99.5 or more even of those people are not there yet at that stage. So they are interested in those names, but they're not there yet in terms of where their business is. So
Not
the
there,
timing,
not there. Mentally to be ready to invest into a domain like that.
it could be both. It could be they actually have the means, but they just don't understand the importance of that name. They don't see it as that important or important enough to change the situation they're in. So in that case, yes, they would need some kind of they would need more knowledge, and we try to offer that with smart branding. Or the other way is when they're not ready. Literally, like they've launched a project, and it's just an idea, they're just starting out, it's a bit more local, they don't have a huge budget, and also even when they do have a budget, it's really not a priority to invest in a domain because they don't know if they're going to be there tomorrow. So again, in that case, we do try and offer advice. We do have a lot of data. We do a lot of research. So just information to help people make better choices throughout that period of development. And they eventually, they end up either acquiring a better or more suitable name, or there are many situations. There are successful businesses that work with names that are not ideal, whether they know it or not. It's not, I do like, that's going to be a long shot a little bit, but I think since we're doing a long interview, so who cares? I do like to make that parallel because it makes it a bit more understandable for people. So when you start running, you have like no understanding. You just need a pair of running shoes, and it could be any running shoes. You don't need to go and get a pair for $500 because you don't know. Maybe you'll run 2 times and give it up, or maybe you'll just run once a week and that's good enough for you, and those shoes are perfectly fine. And then also it depends on the conditions you're going to be running in, and the whatever number of kilometers you're going to do per week, etc., etc. So that's very similar to when you're launching a business, you don't know where you're going, how long is it gonna stand around. It may change. You may launch a business in one area, and then same as with running, you may start running on the flat surface, and then you realize you actually like running in the mountains. And if you had got, like, after the first 2 rounds, some expensive super shoes that are not suitable for that because they're very different, it's kind of, you've put your money in the bin. And if you have that money to spend, it's fine. But it's just, and it's a very, very similar thing with entrepreneurs where when they launch, they don't have that clear idea of where the business is going and commitment as well. So it's better to clear that out, and then see once they're more committed and established what makes sense in terms of I mean, what's the perfect domain name for that particular project. And also, when you have the experience, it's very similar in that way as well. That, for example, like because I'm running in the mountains, I have shoes that are adapted for that. And once here in Kyiv, actually, it was, I don't know, some winter month, and it was cold. And I walked the dog, which I do with different shoes, and I forgot to change my shoes. And I went on for a run in the park with, ups and downs because I'm trying to practice for the mountains. And I literally forgot I don't have the right shoes. And very quickly, obviously, I was like, sliding. And it's that thing where you think, oh, when I started running, I didn't, like, if somebody had asked me what difference do the shoes make, I would have said, not a huge difference. But once you actually have the experience and you have tried the good shoes and you know how you can run and you know what they allow you to do, you're not going to go for run in the mountains with any shoes. You're going to go with the right shoes because it's not just better performance, it's also your security. And it's very much the same with domains, and you can see that with experienced entrepreneurs who have had 1, 2, 3, 5 businesses. When they launch their next business,
Yes.
they know, they've learned the hard way sometimes, if I don't have a good name, I'm going to be losing traffic, I'm going to be losing emails, I'm going to have people confused, my marketing is not going to be effective because, I'm trying to send people somewhere, they're going somewhere else. So those type of people with that experience, they don't have a problem at the outset getting the perfect domain name. Not only they don't have a problem, but they look for that. They would literally change their choice of a name if they cannot get the matching.com domain name.
I'm wondering, can an entrepreneur get to this mature outlook, mature perspective on the domain names in the beginning of their journey, or it's always a transition, or it's always like a second or third or fourth try after they learned it, as you said, the hard way? Would it be a general advice for all entrepreneurs, all business people working in digital space to give more deliberate thought as it pertains to domain right away, or can they actually fuck up a little bit and then come to it organically?
It's, I mean, like with everything, you have people who can learn from, you have people who before they launch themselves into something, they would go and do all the research, read all the things and feedback and case studies, and then and if they actually do that, they will get. And again, with smart branding, we do try to do exactly
to
that,
educate
to
people.
give that. And I mean, literally, like if you talk to our team, the content team on smart branding, you can, if you ask them, what's the thing that I say most often when I get content to review before it goes published, they'll tell you actually two things. They'll tell you two things. One is they oftentimes do American English, so I correct that. I'm like, no, we're not doing Z, we're doing S.
Okay.
But
realize.
That's not, yeah, exactly.
Realize.
And the other thing that I do is we don't tell people. Like whenever there's a paragraph, so we think, we say, we this, we that, I'm like, no, get rid of that. We tell people what we know to be a fact.
Okay.
So if you want to say something, you go and check, what domain choices did the top 500, Forbes, whatever list have? What domain names did the top companies in sports have? What domain names do? All of that. You go and find the facts, you present people with the facts, you let them decide, what to do with that information, but you don't tell, because we can all have opinions, and I get that question oftentimes, with the .com, like, oh, but isn't that better? Or isn't that better? Or why are you just talking about .com? And I'm like, when the moment all of our lists and research that we do come up to be, .net or .z or .xyz or whatever is on the, 50, 60, 70, 80% of the cases, top companies are using that, we're going to talk about that. But it's not the case. So
.com is the way to go.
at the moment and for the past 30 years has been. But yeah, I kind of moved away from your question of how can entrepreneurs learn. That's the thing. There are few cases where entrepreneurs actually do their homework and they do their research and they learn things, and then they go, yeah, I absolutely need the com, or I need a way to be able, I need that door for to the exactbrandmatch.com to be open. So they would take and see, okay, I can't afford it now, but it's available, so I can start building on, hellobunny.com, and then I'll get bunny.com. And they do that. And a lot of the conversations with people I have are that they just want to make sure that there is a way to acquire the name. And I have to say, I give calm.com as an example. There are a few others of entrepreneurs who launched their first business on a really cool oneword.com name because they were persistent. So there are ways, to negotiate and, give equity in your company or agree to some, payment plan,
That's interesting.
or have some other creative agreement with the domain owner, or rent the domain name for some time. There are so many ways that you can explore, and there are entrepreneurs who also do that. And again, that's something that a lot of investors do see as a sign of commitment to an idea. Is, you went that far, you got that name. Not to mention that just, if you're sitting there looking at pitch decks and, propositions, and you have somebody coming from, a cool domain.com and somebody else with we are blah, 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 or Gmail, you're going to look, whether you admit that even to yourself, you're going to look at those two applications differently.
When what pops to my mind, when we were starting our business, we were using Gmail, just as, gmail.com, it doesn't bring as much authority as the ones
Anyone
when you do
can
have
a Gmail. Yeah.
a beautiful, everyone started with gmail.com. But what if you are a young entrepreneur and you don't have the backup, financial backup? Like, what's the, how does one without financial abilities approach the question of domain if he doesn't have the money to buy a really good looking domain? What would be your advice?
I would say that, do your research, learn as much as you can. It is an asset as many others, and it's one that is absolutely like the face of your business, and it's affecting everything, from the emails you're sending, so how people, and your email you're giving away to people, the security, the traffic, the marketing, the print materials, whoever does that still, everything. So one thing would be
the shorter the better. Is that the general?
Well, that's the simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Was
Can we say that all short, nice sounding domains are already bought right now or belong to someone?
A lot, but there are.
Outside
there are
of made up
things
words?
You could make up words. There are made up words. There are different languages as well that you can explore. There are a lot of creative ways. There are a lot of. Not all domain names are in the 6, 7, 8 figures. You can get some decent, pretty decent names for 5, 10, 20, 30,000, which honestly for marketing expense, it's not a marketing expense, it's an investment in your brand. It's an asset that's appreciating. You're going to build on it. So that's, and it is a very common solution to other words, with just that idea of, okay, we're gonna upgrade later on. And I'm seeing more and more, what was it recently, ConvertKit rebranding to kit.com. So they were ConvertKit.com. They tried and rebrand some years back to something else that didn't go well. Like the public didn't, it was too different, too much away from what people know, not fitting their, image, their story, what they do. And just recently they rebrand, they are actually in the process now to rebrand to kit.com, which is like really cool. And it, like, you can see the difference, ConvertKit suggests they're doing conversions.
Yep.
Kit, you can do like anything. It's like a kit, tool for, or set of tools for entrepreneurs. Like, it literally just one change and it opens the whole business. But what they do that's really cool, and I've seen other companies do it and more companies do it, which is really cool, is they are effectively rebranding in public. which is because one of the concerns that a lot of entrepreneurs have when they invest in domain names, they're like, oh, I'm going to spend, 6 figures, 7 figures on a domain name. What are my employees going to say? What are my, investors going to say? What are my customers going to say? Like, you're spending that crazy money on the domain name.
Yeah.
And I've seen Sumo did that as well, even though they rebranded after, still different story. But more and more businesses actually using it as PR and saying, we invest in that because, one, we're confident that we're staying. We're here, we have those funds, we care about you, our investors and our customers and our employees, because you're going to be using that name. It's making your life easier. We care about our brand. We're here to stay in the long run. So if you're thinking my company is going to be there in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, I mean, what is even 1 million in an asset? It's, people spend that on a holiday. So it's a very cool thing to see more and more companies do those upgrades and rebrands in public as the PR, and it's working great, actually. I mean, it's really lovely thing to see.
Can you share some of your favorite stories, success stories, maybe from the domains you sold or you were a part of selling?
We work confidentially, so
you can't.
Yeah, I don't, and I'm kind of a fan of that. Well, yeah. It's respectful to the people involved in the transaction. ConvertKit, as I just mentioned, is just the latest one that we noticed and we wrote about, and it's a really cool one, I think. And again, it's an example of both, not just simplifying the name, since you have cases where the company simplifies the name to something people were already referring to. And that's actually a very good point to, like, if your employees, your team, your customers are calling you something else that is not matching your name, likely there's friction there and you need to do something about it.
Even though you keep things confidential, I know that you have some really, really advanced premium products in your portfolio. And I'm curious, how often do you get some negotiations, and how often people actually want to cut down the price? How, like, what is, like, maybe you can give us the ballpark of how what is the demand for the coolest domains that you have?
So MarkUpgrade, we manage domain portfolios. We don't own the names, so we manage them for domain owners. Just to make that clear. How often? All the time. That's, I mean, a huge part of my day is
so business people do understand that they need something.
Well, the thing is, people do understand, or business owners, they do understand. Like when you have some pain in the company, sooner or later it starts banging you on the head. You're like, oh, that we keep losing emails, people keep calling us, whatever. Or you have somebody in your team like, I'm sick of having to repeat to spell out that name on the phone, or you mistype it. I've literally seen it on printed
all because
materials.
Somewhere in the past they just made a mistake.
Exactly, and they stick to it. And oftentimes you would have literally like the customers, the team members, the marketing team, the sales team, everybody struggling with that name. And the owner going, yeah, but I like it. I'm okay with that.
Oh yeah, struggling?
No. There are a lot of owners.
Why are we called this way?
No, there are. Well, that was the case of Monday.com. Before that, they were called. Oh my God, what were they called? Well, see, that's the problem. What were they called?
No one even remembers.
But it was a name, and the owner actually, I think it was either the owner or the marketing director, was in an interview where the company was starting to get some traction, an interview on TV, and the host made fun of the name because they just found it silly and hard to spell, and at that point they were like, okay, we need to do something about it. And they were again one of the good examples of, they did a really good great PR about how and why they changed the name, and and after they introduced Monday.com, that literally their business went up, and their marketing became more effective, and they become the company that everybody knows now. But there is I would say, if we were to try and do some kind of a timeline, definitely the first point would be the realization of there's something going wrong, there's something that's not okay with this name.
There are some SEO signals, right, that Google can send you that, maybe this domain doesn't perform well.
I'm not an SEO expert, and I don't like. Oftentimes, when we get
Well, people actually associate,
domains with SEO.
With SEO.
So
right.
there are two different things, and oftentimes actually I would get people, entrepreneurs who are interested in a domain name, send the IT person, or the I don't know, like the technical director to talk about the domain name, and I'm like, no, we're managing domain names as brand assets. Okay. So once you have the domain name, you do have the whole like team, or depending on the size of the company, who's going to take care of the technical side of things, and that's different. And that can be, they're going to do it for any domain name. And if you're serious and big enough, you actually should have a domain strategy, have defensive registrations, have all sort of things that are going to be handled by the relevant team. But SEO is something that is a thing of itself, and it changes, and rules change, and some things are important today and not going to be tomorrow, and etc. So that's not something I've really, there are, and it has changed over time, and it probably will change over time, how Google or other search engines treat domain names and what domain names are. But I mean that should be on the list of considerations, but really not in the top, if you ask me. Because that is a brand asset. You take a brand like Nike, you have Nike.com. What do they care what Google changes and does with domain names, and whether it's important? They have a strong brand.
I was used to work with the SEO guys, and there are a lot of people trying to play the algorithm. And I think their thinking was that you need to name your website using the highest ranking keywords.
Yeah. Well, again, that's
that's not about branding or marketing. It's about trying to, in the short run, get to some positions, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to actually building a long-lasting brand.
Yes, and Google and any search engine and any business that's there to stay and for the long run, whether it's for moral reasons or for profit, to stay profitable and to stay in business, they have to, for either of those or both of those to happen and to become and stay true, they have to deliver something of quality to their customers.
Yes.
And it has to happen consistently, and they have to do that. So what Google is trying to do, as much as hate it or love it or whatever, what they're trying to do is make money. But to make money, they need to keep people coming to them, and to keep people coming to them, they need to deliver quality results. So if literally they're on top of their priority is avoiding people tricking the system, because then you're not going to have quality results.
Yep.
So however they change the algorithms, it's going to be with that aim in mind, to deliver quality results to people. So just deliver quality results. Create good content, create good product, have a strong brand, have a name that's easy to remember, easy to find, logical, matching your brand name. Those are things that are not going to change, because they're not going to start suddenly, changing the algorithm to what? It's always going to be with that in mind, to deliver quality, the best quality, the most relevant thing. So if you are that best, most relevant thing, that's one. The other thing is, I'm not a huge fan, and that's personally me, but I think if you think about it logically and look at examples of successful companies, you would struggle to disagree, is you cannot be building a business for Facebook or for Instagram or for Google or for another search engine.
That's a good point. That's a great point.
You are building a business, and the main thing has to be, I need a strong brand.
Yep.
And yes, I want it to show up there and show up here, and I want to create, if relevant, if my audience is on Instagram, I want to create content that's relevant to them on Instagram. But ultimately, you want them directly connected to you, and that's on your website. That's you can have an application, even if relevant.
Yes.
So you're in their pocket, in their phone, but that's all connected to your brand and to your domain name. And that's I absolutely do not get people who would like throw money to get people on their Facebook page, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And then you're gonna pay Facebook to reconnect with those people under the rules that Facebook gave you. It's like, I don't understand, like, why? Like, literally makes
You
no
don't want
sense.
to put all the eggs in one basket, and this is just the most important thing that you said, that you're not building the business, to succeed in one marketing platform, right? At one platform. So you building to, in best case scenario, succeed worldwide and on different channels at once. Okay.
That's of all of those things that you mentioned, that's the thing that people confuse. It's like, oh, I have whatever followers, oh, I have whatever reactions, oh, I have whatever. And then they wake up and it's like, oh, it's all gone. And that's happened, gazillion of times, and it's going to happen again because things change, algorithms change.
But if people remember your brand and your domain name, they can, even if the sky falls, they still remember Nike. I'm going to go and buy Nike.
That's the case, and that should be the aim, actually. It shouldn't be, I want to get people to go to my Instagram. It should be, I want to use Instagram to get people on my website, so that the next time they want something, they come directly to my website. They don't go through here and there and there and there. They go directly to my website. They purchase directly from my website, because I'm not giving percentages everywhere then, and I'm not losing that connection where, other things can happen, other people, other brands can interact and, put their stuff in front of mine or say bad things about me or whatever the case may be. It just makes no sense. Like, those are all tools to get people to your websites, and you want to keep them there, because that's the only place you actually control.
I want to ask you, who's your ideal customer? Because in order to insert the sense of urgency, I think, from my perspective, even though I don't have a big experience buying domain names, but from my perspective, it's difficult to right now go and invest into domains. Like, it's much easier. So can you just once again lay out who are the people who actually need to really give a thought about the domain name? Like people who actually need to take some time and to do the consideration about this.
So I think everybody who has a business, and not only online, because nowadays, like, everything goes through online. We have that little cafe, they have their menu, they have their presentation, they have everything is online. So everybody should have at least a basic understanding of, what are domain names as brand assets, what's the importance, how can they use them to their benefit, and what mistakes they can avoid so that it doesn't hurt their business. That's like a given on any stage. It's like in 30 odd years of internet, you cannot not know that and call yourself an entrepreneur. But in terms of investing, like in the ideal domain name for their business, I would say any business that has a proven concept, that is at a stage where they know where they're going, they're likely expanding, so they're adding services, products, they're adding markets.
Do you think that Jeff Bezos knew where he would wind up with Amazon? Why was it everyone says it was such a brilliant
he knew.
choice.
He said it. He actually wanted to call it Cadabra, if I'm not mistaken, and then somebody on his team, or was it his wife, I don't know, said that it sounds like cadaver, which is not a good association. So he actually went for Amazon because it's like the wide big river that it has that scope of exactly what. And funnily, when he started, he was selling just books. That's again, that shows you the vision, that he didn't call it online bookstore. He called it Amazon because he had that vision of, I want it to be a place where you can buy anything, and it happened.
Yeah.
But that vision was there before that. And to come back to the example I was giving you earlier with Calm or other names, it is an indication when people have that vision, it is reflected in the name they choose as well, and in the domain name. And I think on SmartBranding we have an article with visionary entrepreneurs, and Bezos obviously is on the list, and they have a huge collection of domain names for all of their businesses and products. And yeah, absolutely.
They buy a lot of them for even the ideas that haven't been
oh yeah,
put in fruition.
Any decent size brand has literally, they have a domain strategy, not just one or two domain names, because you have obviously your main domain name, which is the main like face of your company online. Then you have, if you're monitoring, what people are doing online, which you should, because it's respectful to them too, you're going to start noticing that from different regions maybe, or different pronunciations, people are spelling your name differently. So to avoid them ending on a not existing domain or somebody else's domain, they buy those. So it's like defensive registration. A lot of companies buy like microsoftsucks.com, for example, things to avoid them being misused. Domains for different products and services, just to make it easier. I like giving the example of fast.com, and that's a very basic service where you can check your internet speed, and it's Netflix.
Yeah.
And the reason is because a lot of people, when they first started using Netflix, when you don't see well the film, like something is loading, you're like, that thing is not working. And it's not Netflix, it's the speed of your internet. So that's a really great way for them to, okay, go and check your speed. And that solves that problem of, it's not us, it's your internet provider. And they could have put it on any other domain name, but fast.com is, what can make it easier to access and to remember. So that there are a lot of companies that use domain names for creative campaigns. So they would have some, seasonal thing or some PR going on, and they would get the matching domain to make it easier for people to access. So yeah, that's any decent sized company has or should have a domain strategy, and that's the thing that a lot of successful companies do that. So if you are a company that is established, that is global, or aiming to get to that level, and you don't do that, that's a huge disadvantage, because others do.
So turning back to the initial stage of building a business, for all the startuppers in Silicon Valley and all across the world, they invest into, ping-pong tables, or I don't know, smoothie or kitchen or whatever, any additional perks to have like a great atmosphere working in the office. But they can actually invest into buying a domain, right? And as opposed to just entertainment, which is playing ping pong. Of course, team building is important, but still, that would be a great pitch, that great selling point to raise even more funds, right? If you're raising funds, but selecting a great and buying great domain name is a way to go.
It's an investment in the brand, yeah, and it's a brand asset, and it's an appreciating brand asset. And I find it absolutely crazy that entrepreneurs, like you just said, there's so many expenses that, justified or not, that they don't think about twice. Like literally, I've had discussions with business owners who would be like, oh my god, that's a crazy amount, I'm not going to spend that on a domain name, when literally their employees are getting their own domain name wrong. They are writing it out or spelling it out wrong, and that's their employees, people whose job it is to get it right. What about the rest of the people, like their customers, investors, business partners? And they would say, oh, that's a crazy amount, I wouldn't spend that on a domain name. And same people would spend it on a vacation, or on I don't know, like literally it's the, if you have a decent sized company, you have 100, 200, 500 people working for you, you spend crazy money on coffee for a year in that company, just
Yes,
or a different
parties.
way to think about it is, what kind of a, like if we're talking 6 figures, even 7 figures, the things that domain name can do for your company. Imagine the alternative, like how many people at what kind of a wage per year would you need to hire to get those results, to get that recognition, to get that trust, to get that traffic, to get that effectiveness of everything you do in marketing? What would that cost you to get it? And the other thing that I like giving people as a question to think about is, what does it cost you not having it? at the moment. Because it's very hard. I was giving you the example with the shoes. Like if I had not run with really good quality shoes made for mountain running ever, I would never know what it is to run. And I do see when I run in the mountains, there are people that are, more new to the sport, and I see them running with the wrong shoes, and I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? Like I mean, even put aside the performance, you're risking your life. You can fall and, hit your head on a rock, but they don't know better. So they cannot compare. They're thinking I'm okay, or whatever I'm achieving as a result is, what it is, because they've never tried anything better. And it's very similar with domains for people who have never run a business on the perfect domain name, because they have nothing to compare. And a good way to think about that is that, what is it costing me not having that name? What traffic am I losing? What word of mouth am I losing? What security risks am I
It's a
taking?
great point.
All of those things, like if you can try and add that up.
A reverse engineer.
Yeah.
I like metaphors here because they help me personally understand it better. With the shoes, obviously, we can use the same metaphor, with tires. But what just sprang to my mind is the quote by Pharrell Williams. He said that your outfit, the way you look, is representation is of where are you from and where are you going. So it kind of our outfit, like how you look. And where are you from and where are you going? Same thing with the domain name and with the name of the brand. Like, I don't know if KFC, we know KFC, like they ever wanted to be KFC, to end up as KFC.
Well, it's not what you...
But it engenders interest to look up. And then you'll see that there was the Sanders, this Captain Sanders, or what is his name, who founded
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yes. The Kentucky Fried Chicken, and he was the owner, and you kind of look it up. So I think even from the curiosity standpoint, right? Or how was the Air Jordan named? Like,
no, names are great. I love. I mean, I could talk forever about names, and I think that when you're launching a business, it's.
But I mean, it gives
has to have intention. You have to have intention.
Because if you're not thinking of where it can go, where it can take you, what's the point of starting? What's the point of starting locally if you're not thinking about global?
No, you may want to start. There's no problem with being a small local business. It's just, that's going to be reflected in the name. And then if you're going to be a small local business,
you call it with a family name or something.
You call it whatever you want,
Grandpa's
and you don't care
Spice.
about. Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. And again, a huge part of the people I talk to daily, they are not our clients. It's just they're not. Either they don't have that vision, so it's just never going to be for them, or they may have that vision but they're not there yet. They're not yet at that stage where it makes sense. I've literally advised not a few people, I've advised a lot of people who even say like, well, I possibly have that budget, but I'm just starting out, it's just an idea, I'm not sure where it's going. And I would be the first one to say, don't put it in the domain name, even though domain names historically have appreciated in valuation and you can resell it, but it's a market, you never know how long will it take, and whatever may happen. So if you're just starting out and you don't have the money to spend, or it's really the only money you have, I wouldn't say put it in the domain name, but try and test your idea, develop it a bit better, and then see where you're going with that. But it is an indication, and it is a message you send, if you like, even to yourself, of where you're going and to your team.
It's interesting about securing domain for potential sale later on. So you can even buy it and sometime in future resell it. If a big company, for example, decides that they want to call themselves something like that.
It's an
asset. Business idea,
there have been a lot of cases where a business would would fail, and obviously everything is sold, like in buildings and whatever, and the domain names too. So that is an asset that is can be resold, and it's also an asset that doesn't. I mean, once you buy it, you have the acquisition cost, but then it's like $10 per year to renew it. It's compared to a building, for example, it's a very low maintenance asset.
Let's shift to some personal questions and then we're gonna wrap it up.
Okay.
What helps you stay sharp and disciplined doing and developing your business?
I like what I'm doing. I'm interested in names, and then domain names as the sort of an online part of it. So that's interesting. I like talking to different people, and I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs about their ideas from like all parts of the world. So that's always interesting as well. Yeah, I mean that's on the work side, and on the personal like home life side, I have four kids. I have my husband. I have 2 dogs and a cat, and
They keep you focused?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Oh, you don't have a choice. Like when you have that many things to do, you have to get organized.
Yeah, organized. Okay, cool. But that's amazing case study for all of us guys. You can see how.
Yeah, don't have 4 kids.
No. It's a great case study how Tatiana runs such a not high pressure, but a pretty high intense business in terms of operations, and she manages, and
we have a great team as well, and I think that's also something that's important to know. Like, and it's not even about like the quantity; it's about the quality of the people you work with, and that good relationship. So I don't like to micromanage. So all the people that work in our team are very, like, you say something, it has to be done, it gets done, because I really have a bad memory. So it's really hard for me if I say something and I come back 10 days later, I'm like, oh, was that done, what happened there? So having a good team, at least for me, but I think it's for everybody.
They take ownership
of
exactly
the tasks. It's very important to have the right people who are proactive, who
Yep.
Do what they have to do.
Last message to the audience.
Oh dear, last message to the audience. I don't know what.
Watch and say something. I
don't know what to say. What? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Last message. That's a good one. Yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope to actually see more of you here to have some interviews like we just did in Kyiv.
Yeah. Come to Kyiv. It's safe here and beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. The shelter is somewhere there. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we need to make introductions?
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Tiana, hi. But they were too dumb, my questions, no?
No, that's what people think.
I don't know. Can you bring me a pen from my bag? A white pen. Yeah.
And
it's okay. It's not that loud. When I attached the mic, did the Riverside ask something about it? Yeah? Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, it recognized it. Yeah, cool. That was the first thing. The other thing? Recording? All right.